So when are you guys expecting, I guess you said you're already starting to see the fall change. When are you expecting to
Oh,
see, I guess, the bring out the sleds and everything like that?
oh, yeah. In Wisconsin, that we get we're already we'll have below freezing weather this month, and so it'll snow.
And
First snow will fly in next month, in middle of
this
October
month
for
meaning
sure.
September or this month meaning like,
We've already had a couple, close to near freezing, and I wouldn't be surprised if we have a dip below freezing in the next 2 weeks. We'll have snow in October for sure. It's great. Actually, I like it. We have real summers, real weather, 4 seasons. It's awesome. So
I am good with two. I'm good with summer and spring fall. We call it sprawl. I'm good with
oh,
those. I'm good with those two seasons.
yeah,
I could not handle. I used to live in Tennessee and seeing hail and then sleet and then
yeah,
snow like back to back to back is just I was I
yeah.
did not handle that well.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I know. And last week, all my family got major hailstorms in Dallas area, and I don't miss
Yeah.
that. So,
Yeah, we don't really I think I've seen hail maybe like 2 years ago, but it
uh,
was, pretty tiny, not a huge deal.
hey,
Um
thanks for inviting me to talk with your your partners and customers and your team on this subject. This is for me. This is my hobby. I'm passionate about cybersecurity and especially email security. So, hopefully, we'll have a little
Absolutely.
fun here. Yeah,
Well,
I'm
let's
ready to
kick it
start if you
off.
are. Yeah.
Yeah, let's kick it off. So everybody, as far as the attendees joining us today, and for those that may be listening to our webinar recording at a later date, my name is Saeed with DOF Creations. We have Audian Paxson with IRONSCALES. As the title of the event, The Good, the Bad, and the Nightmare, AI's Impact on Cyber Threat Creation. We're going to be speaking specifically about how AI is changing or even in some cases reshaping what is normal and what our expectations should be around email security, the different ways that we have to defend ourselves against new attacks, and also some of the different methodologies and practices to try to exploit our weaknesses and to try to take advantage of those individuals that we are working to support and secure for all of our organizations as IT professionals. So, of course, with DOF Creations, we are a traditional value-added reseller partner working with a wide variety of network, security, and software solutions, as well as providing services to our customers across the entirety of the IT landscape. We're working with our partner IronScales to bring this presentation and discussion to you today. Just wanted to give Audien an opportunity to introduce himself, introduce IronScales, and then we'll dive in.
Thanks, Saeed. Appreciate it. And again, thanks for the invite. So as I was saying, right before we actually officially started this webinar, I'm passionate about cybersecurity, especially email security. I've been doing it a long time. I don't know, 20 plus years actually.
Mhm.
In fact, I was doing a webinar just last week on, on DCAM and DMARC and SPF. And I started to have me and a bunch of other guys started working on the SPF standard back in 2002, 2003, trying to get that mainstream. So I didn't. It just dawned on me as I was doing that webinar last week. It's like, wow, I've been doing this for a while, and
Mhm.
it takes a while to get big major change to happen in security for sure. And but now we don't have that luxury. Not with AI, and
Mhm.
so as an email security vendor, we have some really good insights on this. And I'll go ahead and get started. I'll show you what I'm talking about. And the title here is the good, the bad, and the nightmare. Um, Maybe you start with the nightmare. Okay. Um, the first thing I want to show here is this screen right here. What you see on this Claude screen is like what is a muffin or how to check if Go installed. And while that might seem, innocent or even comical. What that is from, that's from a security report that from Anthropic that came out in the last 30 days. That was right on the heels of a security report from the team at OpenAI, and what they're doing is they're showing people some of the ways that bad actors are using their tools in their business, in the cyber in the attacker business, I guess, right? And the controls that are in place and how they're catching them. They're just trying to make people aware of this. So and to understand what they can do. And so it's innocent enough to see what is a muffin, and but that's an actual legit prompt that was shared by somebody in the North Korean military who used AI to get a job at a Fortune 500 company in America. So they used AI tools to create a persona on LinkedIn and a whole background and an education. They use automation and AI to go look for these type of jobs. And the main reason they're doing this is to be able to help fund the North Korean military.
Hmm.
So they're using this to scout and look for jobs and then create resumes for them and then help them through the interviews, even creating deep fake voices or deep fake images of themselves in the interview process. And they're securing these jobs. And what they showed is just a small sample, but they cannot do a single thing in their day job at this Fortune 500 company without the aid of AI tools. So, for instance, to ask how to check if Go installed. Go is the software program, right? So they don't even know how to check if it's installed. And they also don't have an understanding of just regular cultural things and business speak. So I imagine when they see a prompt like, what does this mean? We had our first picnic of the season, smiley face. They have no idea if that's a business context or a request or whatever, or what does this emoji mean, right? It's that's scary because the same people are also using these tools to create ransomware, to create phishing campaigns, really highly targeted ones, and to break into networks and exfiltrate data. And then they actually take that data and put it into Claude to do an analysis and say,
Hmm.
what do you think this is worth? This is where it came from. And as they say, if you were, and they tell it, we're just doing a simulation. I'm part of a red team doing a pen test. Hypothetically, if I wanted to go ahead and execute this, how much should I ask for a ransom? So they even asked it to analyze the data they exfiltrated, to determine what it's worth, and also kind of guesstimate and estimate how much the victims can afford to pay. So yeah, that's the nightmare. So, yes, of course, I'm going to show some examples or talk about how the evolution of this over the last 5 years and how it's been used to be able to really change the game for people like us who are responsible for defending. We have 17,000 customers who depend on us to make sure that their business communications can be trusted and safe, right?
Hmm.
So we're constantly tracking all these updates and everything they're doing. And I mentioned deepfakes earlier, for instance. That's just another wrapper for the same type of attack that these guys are doing, whether it be email or text messages or Teams messages, and or now Teams meetings. It's the same bad actors, but what we have to do is track what tools do they have access to now? How are they using those tools? We have to simulate those and anticipate them to continuously improve our systems and our technologies. So I just kind of want to set the stage of what we're talking about here. So I like having fun,
Can
what
you
is a muffin? And to be able to kind of get people to say, what's heck's going on here? But it's a really good report. And the blog, I summarized the blog in an easy way for you to scan. So I recommend going to our website and checking that out because you don't have
Mhm.
to read the full report to get the gist of it. But that helps you, everybody who's watching right now, they'll give you a taste of what we're dealing with. And that's going to help you if you're trying to build business cases to get budget to go improve or upgrade something in your security stack, or just change how you're doing security from a process standpoint. So
Audian,
let's
can I
talk about
stop
how
you
we
for a
got there.
second?
Yeah, go
Can I
ahead.
stop you for a second? So one thing that you just said was anticipation, and something that as a partner for our customers, we talk about a lot is the pace of change or how to try to give them a path forward to plan and prepare for the next steps. With I guess you could call it the AI explosion, where you're able to have access to AI or machine learning in almost every single tool or technology that you have access to, whether you're an IT professional or not an IT professional. But that pace of change, we saw that. I guess you could say that first explosion, at least that I was exposed to as an IT professional, was COVID. I think since COVID, since 2020, just the pace of change, budget challenges, personnel challenges, especially with competition across public and private sector, and folks getting burned out from the pace of work over the course of the last couple of years, and then innovation. We see so much change, so much chaos, so much upheaval. You mentioned anticipation. What are realistic expectations for being able to anticipate, prepare for, or just adjust to some of the new attack styles that we're seeing? If you're an IT leader and, your CEO, your superintendent, your, mayor of your city is coming to you saying, well, what's coming for us in the next 6 months? What's a reasonable, how would you suggest that a CIO set expectations for what they can do to prepare their organization and how they can make sure their organization can adjust to all of the change?
That's a great question. Um, as much as I- at Iron Scales, we've been obsessed with trying to squeeze every little thing we can out of AI and machine learning. In our perfect world, we know it's not possible to make it 100% perfect, but we
Mhm.
want to get darn close to it. Um, so what we know though that helps get as close as possible is a combination of using technology, AI, and machine learning with human insights and human best practices, and being able to harness the relationship between those two does two things. One, we're using that connection, we call it, adaptive AI, to continuously improve the machine learning in AI. Just like everybody here remembers, it seems like it wasn't, a long time ago, but it's not that long ago when ChatGPT first came out, how often it's hallucinated and how,
Mhm.
if you went back and looked at it now, if you could go all the way back to 1.0 version of that, you'd be like, oh my gosh, this is awful, right? There have been so many improvements. A lot of those improvements are because of humans, people using it and giving it a thumbs up or thumbs down. So that interaction and that connection is really important because there's always new things coming out. There's new novel attacks, small
Mhm.
subtle changes that we need to use to continuously improve the technology. That's on the technology front. The human, and I'm going to go through this towards the end here, some best practice recommendations people can go do today. You don't have to go spend money, you don't have to buy anything, you don't have to fill out a form and have a salesperson contact you. I'm going to give you some practical things you can do. But it still comes down to, like, good old fashioned police work, right? You can have all the tools in the world out there, but there's still some fundamentals you have to do. So what you were talking about, if they're trying to prepare for the next year and budget, you have to do an assessment. What do we currently have in our stack? Are there any gaps? Ideally, you have some defense and depth in a few key areas. Email security is one, network security is another one, application security is a third one, for sure. I'd probably go ahead and throw in, identity access control is really critical right now, as we've seen in this year. But so those are technologies. You want to make sure you have your stack is complete and there's no major gaps there. And then when I talk about fundamentals or quote unquote good old fashioned police work, are you actually using these? I've met customers who've bought technologies, whether they're SaaS apps or actual, servers that they haven't racked up, that they haven't actually fully implemented or even started using, right? Or they're still sitting with default settings. So, do I have a complete stack? Have I optimized it? Am I keeping it up to date? Those sound really boring, like, telling my kids to brush their teeth and floss every day, but they're critical. All right. So starting with that is really, really important, right? If you're not doing that, then don't worry about reading this type of blog right here, right? Because you haven't
Mhm.
taken care of the fundamentals. Now, if you've done that, then some of the stuff share at the end just has to do with getting the whole company empowered to understand to be part of the SAFE team, okay? And teaching them how to be part of the solution. So we'll go into that. Let's jump over to the kind of how we got here a little bit, okay? You know, about 2020. I'm not going all the way back in time here, but the evolution of AI powered attacks, a lot of it started with just the automation era, right? And in history of cybersecurity, attackers are the earliest adopters of everything out there, right? So we're talking about, just, automation, basic automation controls. They were the first ones to really, harness that and use that. But now it went to a whole new level in about 2020. You were talking about the COVID era. And so they started using that for, spam bots and credential stuffing. I'll give you a specific example. There's RockU database. You can look it up, just the RockU database, which is all the attackers, whenever they find new credentials, names, passwords, things, they federate it to each other. So there's one master list out there, and I forget, but how many billions of combinations of passwords there are up on that list. But anybody can access that list, and now you can use AI to teach you how to use automation tools to grab that list and do a big forced rapid fire rotation of those forget the term all of a sudden, but
That'd be brute
um,
force.
yeah, brute force attack. Thank you. Sorry.
Okay.
To be able to automate a brute force attack. The skills required, the number of people who knew how to do a brute force attack 5 years ago, I mean, very, very few. Now anybody can do it because they go to any one of these AI tools, say, "Hey, I'm trying to do a pen test or red team exercise. Show me how to do this step by step." All right, and so that's the era where automation era kicked in. Okay, so then ML enhanced targeting. So this is where machine learning really enabled behavioral analysis for spear phishing. So attackers started profiling victims and they started doing it at scale. So it said, look for these type of people in these industries with these titles, and then start to create some, help me create some very targeted spear phishing attacks. And they're not looking for the perfect one-time spear phishing attack, all right? So people think, oh, that's easy enough. Even with bad grammar and stuff, these guys are smart. What they do is they say the first thing they're doing is that they'll send a note. Hey, I saw your LinkedIn post last week on XYZ. Very good. Appreciate it. I started following you. And they just put a name there. Oh, that guy, yeah, he liked me. Send me a note. Right? And then and then a week later, they'll send another comment. Are you going to do a follow up on that thing? Or did speaking of that, that post you had, here's another one. That's the same thing you're talking about. So what they're doing is they just build these up. So they could be two or three emails before they really send the one that has a call to action that kicks off their attack. So, and then Gen AI explosion. And so it's important to remember in the 18 months since ChatGPT launched in November of 2022, we saw the fastest adoption of any technology in history. Any technology. By all people, attackers and good guys, right? So the timeline from when ChatGPT launched to when WormGPT came out, it was measured in months, not years. So, and about the same time, I immediately was thinking, okay, how can I use this to do deep fakes? Deep fake, fake somebody's persona, their likeness, or fake a fictitious person. And then let me start using these tools to do the voice, the video, how they write.
Mm-hmm.
People, we overuse game changer, but I put a tag in there for game changer because this is a real example of game changer event for sure. And then just this month, it was announced it's a new technology called Spam GPT. And I'm going to show you guys what that looks like here in a little bit, but it basically commercialized a tool that is positioned as for spam or email. But as you'll see, I'm going to show you a little bit about that in the next screen, but do you have any questions about the timeline before I move on?
No, I think, well, not so much a question, but just I I think for any IT professional that sees this timeline, I think they're able to remember their introduction to these different
Yeah.
stages,
Hey, where were
seeing
you
the
when?
intro.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, you so you're
exactly.
it's
Yeah,
yeah, it's like, something that you saw on TV or something like that. You may not remember, the date and the time, but you go back and you remember these moments like this
yeah,
particular Super Bowl halftime show or commercial. It's like I don't remember
exactly.
what
Yeah,
year that was, but I remember seeing that like so as you're talking about especially the targeting, I
yeah,
think the sophistication rising tag that you put on that is really important to understanding where we're at today. that foundational stage of automation, like everybody got annoyed. You're just getting so much spam, so much crap. You're just hitting phishing just to get it out of, even if it's not phishing, you're just hitting phishing to get it out of your inbox. But when that sophistication, that increased sophistication moment came, that's when we all started being a little bit more cautious. I know for us, I do our webinars for DOF. End of 2023, beginning of 2024 is when I started making sure that for my team members, they were aware that, hey, I have some stuff out on YouTube. People could potentially target me or pretend that they are, familiar with me because they saw something of mine on YouTube. If my name is attached to something, just assume, unless I send it to you specifically, I call you, I talk to you on the phone, you hear my
Yep.
voice, just assume that there's nothing to it. It's a scam. And it's the same thing for me. You get all these different in-mail, the LinkedIn in-mail stuff that comes in. I have 1,000 unread of those. It might be a real person, but because, we know that targeting specific victims is a common practice now. If I don't know you, if we haven't actually had a conversation in person, I haven't shook your hand and looked you in the eyes, there's a good chance I'm not responding to my in-mail. And I think that's for all of us as well. It's as we
Yep.
I was thinking earlier in your conversation, we've made everything very virtual, like, the hiring process. Most people don't go in and sit down with a manager to get hired anymore. But I think we're going to get to a point, as you were talking about how, North
A human
Korea
in the
is
loop.
using.
We're gonna human in the loop for
Exactly.
sure. Yeah.
Exactly. Kind of
So
like air gapping human interaction.
yeah.
Like we talk about that for utilities and manufacturing these chemical plants because they don't want to have the risk of outside interference. But as you laid out, the risk of outside interference is kind of the norm now. It's
Yep.
not really a risk, it's just something you have to expect. If you're a hiring manager, you're probably looking at, 30% of your resumes that are built by bots. So now do you just close everything back down, or how much can you close down without kind of going back in time? And is that possible?
Yep. You're right for sure. So let me. I got a few more here, but I'm gonna go show an example of this last one, and then after that, I'll kind of share with everybody kind of the state of the union, like what
Mhm.
other security leaders are seeing over the last couple of years and what they see coming in the next few years, where they sit and where we think the attackers sit. Okay. So um, specifically for spam GPT, I mean, this is like a look at this as Salesforce for criminals. And I went through the product and looked at the screens, and I'm honestly, we use Salesforce and HubSpot, and there are features in this product that I'm jealous of that I wish we had in one of those two programs. And I'm not being ridiculous.
Mhm.
It's really elegant. But also they have customer support, they have documentation, you can submit feature requests. And so what this does is something where it's it's a program that you can use to manage a whole, not just email campaigns, but you're also testing. You can get a bunch of credentials to see if I can take over somebody's legitimate email account using SMTP account stuffing. Or you can create throw a whole bunch of like 20 throwaway SMTP accounts at once. And you could say, I want you to randomize the name and the domain and the subject line. We call that kind of polymorphic attacks of these emails. And then I want you to send a test email and then go show me in these other accounts where it landed in the inbox. Did it get thrown into quarantine or spam or not? And then they can sit there and use this program to modify and tweak the subject line and the body to help get it out of automatically going into spam folders and getting to the inbox. Again, I
Mhm.
would love that feature with the legit stuff we use here. All right.
I think we
This
all would.
is, yeah, this is really scary stuff. So, and they're doing that it can do multi languages. It can help generate the content automatically and have really good analytics of reporting. So this is what I'm talking about. They're always the first to take the next level. So I think part of me really wants to go ahead and submit some feature requests from some of the stuff I saw inspired from this. But it's full campaign management and lead tracking. So,
Mhm.
and I have some tips here that every IT security leader should go do in their environment to make sure that nobody who's using ChatGPT is using it to one, potentially compromise their mail accounts or their partner mail accounts, and also some things they can do to minimize some of the spoofing of their domain and their brand. So I have some data to share from we hired Osterman Research to do to do a study on the use of AI to enhance defensive cybersecurity. That was earlier this year. And we wanted to know what their opinions are, what they're seeing, what they're using, and where they think people have, where they sit compared to attackers. So one of the questions in the survey was compared to 2 years ago, what impact are you seeing from the use of AI as an adversarial or offensive threat against your organization? So the results were really interesting on this. So the top three increases that they saw had to do with sophistication, um, and that's what AI is. That's AI writing. Evasiveness. That's the polymorphic AI content that I talked about earlier. So you're using technology to sit there and just randomize the subject lines and content, even just a little bit, so to throw security technologies off your scent, right? And then for this, they're using AI and machine learning to get for speed and scale and for stealthiness overall. It's a perfect trifecta for these guys. So that's what 150 different IT security leaders that what they said, and these are security leaders in North America responsible for primarily responsible for the security of their organization. Now, where they say attackers have the biggest edge is using Gen AI, and one of the key reasons there is what we asked them there was based on your experience, who currently has the advantage in the use of the following AI capabilities. So there's a long list there, but where the attackers have the edge was specifically with Gen AI and GAN, which is used for adversarial modeling, right? And there for both of them, they had a distinct advantage. And basically, you need to understand that in addition to the technologies, for us in organizations, we have to follow the rules. We try to, right? There are guardrails on the technologies that we use. We have other people that we have to be involved in a process. So they don't have compliance mandates. They don't have ethics. They don't have policies. There are no guardrails. So they can just use these without any of those constraints. So that's why they're going to have the advantage and almost always have the advantage, even if it's just a little bit. It's our job to be able to keep up with it. And it's just a cat and mouse game back and forth. It's just moving at, light speed. So if we ask some of the other stuff that was in that list had to do with, stuff where they believe the defenders have the advantage. So the same question went to them. And there was some really good news, right? So the defenders own the space of using behavioral AI, right? So what that is like in our space, in email specifically, we're using natural language understanding to be able to, and processing to be able to understand what does normal look like for all of the people that we protect? How often do they email? Who do they email? What's the frequency? What's the time of day? What do they email about? What type of emails do they get? What type of vendors? So we create this very highly personalized baseline that we're always, always, always refining. And then we analyze every single email that comes in to look for the subtlest details that something's off. Because the days of identifying a malicious email with bad grammar or bad spelling are gone, right? Now, instantly, the North Koreans who don't know what a muffin is can write perfect emails, right? So we had the advantage there. And, so almost 100% of the security leaders say that AI-powered defenses are more effective than the previous ones. So AI importance for defense grew 5 times in the previous 12 months in terms of their usage. So what we asked them is, in which of these ways are you guys using or these technologies incorporated in your stack? So we saw some very rapid adoption of these tools by defenders. So, and they're using it beyond just native email security protections. They're using it for, account takeover, activity, for identity access management, and even like for web application security. So,
Can I stop you another
yeah,
time, Audian?
yeah.
Can you go back? I think it was your last slide.
Here.
The one just before that.
All right.
So I noticed that the top three increases you have are sophistication, evasiveness, and bypassing defenses. But on the larger chart on the right side, volume of attacks seems to rank just a little bit higher. What was the reason that maybe volume of attacks didn't it shows on this chart as being number one, but in the ranking from the Osterman research effort, it's not included in the top three.
Well, I'm focusing on the increase, the significant increase in the previous
Okay.
12 months. So
Oh, okay.
the
Gotcha.
most significant increase in the orange areas, right?
Mm,
So
okay.
the first part of the candles on each of these have to do with moderate increases, and then the second part of the candle on each of them is a significant increase.
Okay.
And those are the three where we saw the most significant increases in, evasiveness, sophistication, and the ability to bypass security solutions.
With how it's being ranked there as far as moderate increase with over 50% of IT leaders saying they're seeing an increase, but it's moderate. Could that view of it being moderate be due in part to maybe our desensitization? We're seeing, from the spam era, we've seen such an increase in email attacks that every time we see a bump in it,
Yeah,
it doesn't affect us as maybe it should.
yeah. Look, these are surveys,
Hmm.
right? So what I'm looking for is I zoom out and I'm just looking for order of magnitude. I'm looking for trends.
Hmm.
So it doesn't matter if you can bump any of these up 5 points in either direction. The margin of error is nothing I'm too worried about. I'm looking
Hmm.
for just drastic changes. And so, for instance, we did one for the business cost of phishing. How much does it cost a business to deal with a single phishing email, and then in total per month? And we did a research similar to this 3 years ago. I'm doing another one today with the exact same questions, and I want to see the difference between the two. So I'm looking for trends,
Yeah.
right? And I do this because one, of the business we're in, but also the people we serve, it's good for them to know, how are they doing compared to their peers, right?
Hmm.
So, all right. So let's see, where were we over? I think this was yeah. So we already covered this right here.
Yep.
Now I have some real world proof, right? I got receipts. So because of where we are and the technology we deliver is an AI based, API based email security, meaning we sit in the inbox, use an API, plug us in, and we see everything that hits the inbox. For a lot of customers, most of them are on Microsoft 365 or Google Workspace, and a lot of them still use, or at least for a while, but when they start using our technology, are still using a traditional secure email gateway, which is think of it like a firewall upstream. All the mail is redirected to them first. They look for spam and phishing emails, and then it forwards on to Microsoft. So we're in a unique situation where I was able to analyze 2,000 customers who are using Barracuda, Proofpoint, Cisco, or Mimecast. And over a
Hmm.
30-day period, I could count exactly how many malicious emails they missed. So that's the difference. And so in the previous slide, we in the previous slide we talked about how defenders have the advantage and they're using behavioral AI. This is an
Hmm.
example, and this is proof of behavioral AI working and doing better than the old school technologies. So for a 30-day period, for every 100 mailboxes on average, 70 emails are being missed. So if you have 1,000 employees, that's 700 emails. Now think about that for a second. 700 email attacks. Those are email attacks that were missed by a SEG like Proofpoint or Mimecast or Cisco. These were email attacks that were then also missed by Microsoft or Google Workspace.
Hmm.
So that means to me that they're probably pretty good, bad word to use. They're a good quality and highly targeted attack, which
Hmm.
means the chances of a human falling for it increase significantly.
Hmm.
So it's two things are at play here. One, we would not have seen these results 5 years ago. AI has changed the game, and that's what's creating this gap. You have to use AI tools to be able to help defend against this. You can't use traditional approaches where you just have a bunch of rules and filters and policies. So now I have a few slides. Actually, if you have any questions on this first, otherwise my next few slides are going to talk about some practical steps that everybody watching this can do today.
No, I think let's dive in.
All right, cool. So What we know for sure is like I've kind of demonstrated, hopefully conveyed, communicated the fact that AI kind of removes, has changed the game. But AI removes many of the red flags that we've been training users for years to look for, right? Grammar's perfect, urgency feels real, and more times than not, they're highly personalized. So these are things you could print this up and put it in, in the break room, for instance, or just distribute it to people. But some good gut checks, right? So for sure, question urgency. AI can do a great job of writing emails that have just the right amount of urgency, and just compel you just enough without overdoing it, right? We're not talking like, Nigerian prince stuff. We're talking stuff that just says, hey, it's before the next payroll, make sure you go update these following records to make sure that otherwise those employees may not, get their paycheck or get, whatever.
Their bonus or
It's
something.
just, yeah, it's just a small little thing. Oh, I better check that, right? So these
Hmm.
are really careful. So question urgency, trust your gut. If it feels off, it probably is. It's worth reporting. It's worth just asking somebody next to you, what do you think about this at a minimum, right? Don't be afraid. Even if you click on it, tell people that there should be no shame. Nobody gets in trouble for reporting something. Everybody makes mistakes. You can be the hero to save a lot of other people in the company. All right. So report it, click that report phishing button. And always verify offline. One of the best defenses that people still do is you have, division of responsibilities, right? And it goes way back to accounting days. In accounting days, one person had owned the checkbook in a company and they kept that locked up, and that person could write a check, but they didn't have the authors. They weren't allowed to sign a check. If they signed the check wouldn't go through. A different person who doesn't have access to the checkbook is allowed to sign checks, and the
Hmm.
third person is the one who gets the statements every month, and they get to reconcile all that. So it's not possible for one single person to take advantage and use that checkbook. You could do the same thing with data controls. For instance, if somebody wants to reset their multi-factor authentication or create a whole new account, Saeed, you could be the person who is responsible for initiating that, right? You can't hit the go button. It has to then be handed off to me like in an assembly line, and I'm responsible for doing that. So, and then a different person is going to get a record and update. The following changes were made by Saeed and Audian. That
Yeah.
type of stuff. Financial controls, if somebody wants to change a routing number, change payroll, add a new employee, you bet. Let's go. Call me on off channels, check a different ones, send me a second, confirmation email, and then let me go talk. I have to go talk to somebody else to be involved in the process. It seems really basic, but it's super, super important because all these breaches I read about can be addressed this with these simple best practices. And they're called best practices because they are proven methods that work.
Can we go back for 1 second?
Sure.
So two questions I had on this. The first is more of a looking forward at what AI may be able to do. If you have somebody who has an email account that's been compromised, I know looking at Copilot and Gemini and these different things that are built into Outlook and Gmail, they're kind of combing your emails to see, they try to give you a summary of what's in the email, but really they're just reading through your emails, leveraging whatever their AI model is. Is it possible that a bad actor um, could learn how to write in the style of the compromised account?
Yeah, for sure.
Based on kind of just scraping through, and maybe number four becomes more difficult to notice in the future.
Yeah, it's already difficult, right? So
Okay.
that was two-part questions. One is very possible. Number two, they have a massive amount of data, and I hate to say it, but we can all be profiled, right?
Hmm.
I can tell an AI program three or four songs that I like, and it could tell me you probably like these other 20 songs, and I hate to admit it, but it's usually right. Okay. It doesn't take too long to say, here's the type of email for somebody who works in accounts payable for a manufacturing company typically gets,
Hmm.
right? They know people in the industry. They know the type of business process emails they get. Here's a template. Here's what it looks like. Here's a change order. And then it's a numbers game because they can send that out using Spam GPT to millions. It's just a
Yeah.
numbers game. They just had to be right a few times. So trust in your gut still matters. Humans are just unbelievably, we're really good if we just pay attention for a moment, like something's not right. And if you just hit the pause button and just listen to that voice, everybody has a
Mhm.
little spidey sense. Everybody has a little bit of spidey sense in them. I believe that. Okay.
Yeah.
So if something seems right, doesn't seem right, I don't know, just put it away. Get back at a minimum. Just don't respond right away or just ask somebody else to look at it. So
Yeah.
especially if it has to do with money or data or people. Okay.
Absolutely. Number five, for the majority of our customers, they're public sector. That can be kind of challenging for public sector to do, knowing that they can't withhold information about vendors. You know, that stuff goes out to city council or
Yep.
the county commission, and then it's posted as far as a public hearing and that type of thing. Are there things that public entities can do maybe in the way that their internal email security resources are maybe fine-tuned to maybe be more sensitive or something along those lines to help them to navigate around that? Or is that just a risk they have to take on because they're a public entity and there's only so much you can do?
I'm not sure. I didn't think about that a little bit. I for sure that they're gonna have to take all the same precautions.
Hmm.
I think it's even more important that they're using AI tools that are built to learn real time all the time from every inbox and every employee, because then it starts to learn for public entity companies. Here's the way they communicate. So that's
Okay.
just, I think that's better argument to, you want to make sure that the security controls are, can learn and adapt to that business and that industry. There's, there's no way a human can do that. A human can't go
Hmm.
in there and just create some new policies and rules because of their industry, and they can't do that at any sort of scale. And even if they did it a pretty good job one day or one week, maintaining that is a nightmare, right? And then
Yeah,
from an
over
admin
time.
perspective, stuff they put in last year that was really important is no longer relevant, and now it's actually created a vulnerability.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay.
So here's some fun little exercise. You get three reality checks people can do. Again, today, the bypass test. So go grab just 10 random emails that were reported by users, and then and see how many of them did your seg miss. Go look at your seg log files and see if they missed them. If it missed more than three, then you have a serious detection gap. Why say three? It's 3 out of 10. That's 30%,
Hmm.
right? For a lot of, especially, public entities, that's thousands or hundreds of thousands of emails, right? Of missed emails. So that's a way to do a spot check. You don't have to go hire some penetration test, red team expert. Just go look up the last 10 that people reported to you and go into your seg and see if it missed it, right? Okay. So next one, the speed test. Set a timer. Next time you get a user reported email, time how long it takes between the time whenever they click the report email and somebody got put their eyes on it, looked at it, maybe did a little investigation, and made a decision. All right. 26 minutes is generous, but if it's taken more than 26 minutes, then attackers have a massive, advantage because a lot can be done in 26 minutes. Most people are not going to read an email and click on it the second it hits an inbox. But in a lot of businesses, it's very possible that they're going to act on it or do something within the first 26 minutes. So again, simple test, no, low tech, easy to do. Right? It's a good exercise to do. Last one's a human test. Right? This one's kind of fun. Just without any prep, no training, whatever. Just go walk around or ping 10 employees and ask them, say, quick, right now, show me where the report phishing button is. And if they hesitate, if they fumble around, I'm not just saying if they can't find it. You will also pay attention to, did it take a while for them to remember it? Because that just means that
Hmm.
they don't use it. So effectively they can't find it, right? So if fewer than seven out of those 10 can't, if fewer than seven can find it, then your last line of defense fails. Okay. So these are really good to test to go do right now. And again, you don't have to buy anything. We talked earlier about that impressive software from SpamGBT. So there's two slides on this, and there's two ways to look at this. Some practical things you can do today um, to help you with like potentially if you or your partner's accounts get compromised. So if they find a way to get some sort of passwords and to log in to your SMTP, because they can do that and they can test a whole lot of them. And now what they're doing is they're sending email from an account that is legit, has a good reputation, maybe it's been sending email for months or years, and probably even has SPF and DKIM and DMARC authentication. So you want to disable, you want to require MFA for all mailbox access. You want to disable old auth. You want to put some outbound mail rate limits to how many emails that you could send per hour and some throttling there. And the reason you want to do that is all of a sudden now you'll make it easier to see a spike. You'll see a spike if somebody else is taking over your email account, right?
Mm.
So, and then you want to look for unusual mailbox rules because that's something else they do. They'll go and like access your mail server, start sending email, and put a rule in there to go in there and clean it up and delete that, as soon as the email campaign goes out. And some stuff you can do, even if they're creating their own accounts or accessing other people's accounts, is for sure you want to enforce DMARC. And you can't do DMARC without SPF and DKIM, but enforcing DMARC helps protect your domain because it makes sure that anybody sending email on your behalf, much greater chance that those emails will be caught or at least thrown into a quarantine or spam folder. Also, it's going to make it easier for you on the receiving side to be able to see some anomalous behavior because those emails that are spoofing your CEO from a domain that looks very similar to yours will fail authentication. So, and then you want to look for some new domains, lookalike domains, and detached envelope mail from, meaning the mail from address is slightly different from the actual sending domain. So these are just some things to look for to see if attackers are using something like Spam GPT, because I think a lot of them are going to be doing it. So, um, so those are the three things. Go run that three reality check. Those three reality checks. Implement those human defenses, right? And then go test your improvements.
All right. I don't know if we have any questions from the audience. Let me see if I can get into the Q&A. All right. So feel free to throw some questions into the Q&A and we'll go through those. And for anyone, if you don't feel comfortable, hopefully I've asked some questions. They might have been silly questions, but hopefully I've asked some good questions and we can keep those rolling.
Yeah, you asked some good questions, so I appreciate that. You made this a lot of fun. I like the back and forth, and it makes it nothing. I do a lot of webinars, and it's always more fun when there's some dialogue back and forth versus because I hate feeling like I'm just speaking at just presenting some data to a bunch of people sitting on mute because I know what it's
Yeah.
like to be on their end. Like, okay, all right, get to the good stuff.
Well, I know I got a couple of questions before this event, so I knew I had a couple of folks who wouldn't be able to attend. Um, but let me see if we got any questions in because I don't want to skip anyone. Okay, so a couple of questions that I got in advance. One of them was, are there limits to how fast AI and machine learning can adjust to a current attack practices or spot new ones?
Depends on how they're designed, right? So
Mm,
there are some AI based tools out there that have static AI, meaning they have a model that's based on these features and this data set, and they deploy them, and then they will observe. And if they see exceptions or issues or people send tickets, then they go and retrain them and they upload them periodically. So you want
mm,
stuff that is using a form of human in the loop or RLHF. The ones that do that, they are they adapt and evolve almost instantly. So if you're looking at some cybersecurity technology and they start to make a lot of claims about their AI and machine learning, ask them how are the models updated? How frequently are they updated? Are they updated on real time? Are they updated globally or for my tenant specifically? Do they benefit from the whole herd, everybody that uses them? Just ask some of those questions. If the first question or two, you're going to know if you're talking to somebody who's using some pretty advanced stuff because they're going to be happy you asked that question and they're going to go through, oh, yeah, as a matter of fact, here's how our stuff is updated. Here's how it learns. So that's a good question.
Something that came up when I think we shared with some of our customers some of the, I think you have blog posts on the IronScale site around the evolution of deepfakes and how AI is improving or enhancing the abilities of bad actors to create really compelling deepfakes. Let me see what this question was. Do you have any examples of catching or preventing impersonation, including deepfakes? Do you know if there's anything that you guys have done? And I know some stuff you're not allowed to discuss, of course, for some aspects of security, customers don't want, certain things discussed. But I know you do have some customers that are your, like public facing testimonial customers. So I don't know if any of those customers, have had examples of how you've helped them with, those specific kinds of attacks.
Yeah, so I mean, periodically we'll write a post about a new type of attack,
Hmm.
and I usually obfuscate or replace the names to protect the identities because that's really not important. What's important for people to be aware of is something novel or a change in
Hmm.
something that we've always known before. Um, Email spoofing. As a matter of fact, when I shared let me go back to this slide here on. Um, Yep. So this analysis that we did right here, um, we see a lot of the vendor scam and credential theft and business email compromise are the top three that were
Hmm.
missed on a regular basis. It's important to know that a lot of business email compromise, to do that, it almost always involves spoofing somebody you know, spoofing somebody, either somebody in your organization
Hmm.
or partner you do business with. Spoofing is one of the big things that we tracking all the time, and
Hmm.
because they get better at it, they can use AI to go and figure out who's who in the zoo in an organization, and then who's partnered with who, and then who are all the actors, who are all the employees in both of those organizations, and from there I can do all sorts of emails between those two companies pretending to be from somebody else. And
Hmm.
more times than not, I don't notice that the domain of the email address is off just a little bit. So somebody can do, let me talk about that for a second. It's really simple. Attackers can just do a lookalike domain that looks very similar to Iron Scales, right? Maybe it has, just a random letter in the middle, but first glance it looks the same. So they can buy that domain, set up an email server, and do SPF and DKIM and DMARC, right? So it passes authentication and everything. And then
Hmm.
I'm just going to change the from address on the envelope to make it look like their normal one. Most humans aren't going to catch it. I wouldn't catch that on a regular basis because, I get hundreds of emails a day. I'm busy. I try to slow down and take a look at it. Now I'm going to take a closer look if what the email is asking me is something a little bit different than what I expect,
Hmm.
right? Then I say, hey, let me look at this. And then I'll click our report phishing button. Or in our case, a little bit of a promo here. Our report phishing button has a chat function. So I can talk to Themis and say, have I seen an email from this person before? And they say, you have, but not from that actual address. You might want to report this email. Looks like we have
I
time
didn't.
for one more question.
Okay. Let me see if. So some of the questions we got were around policy, cyber insurance, um, things of that nature. And we also got a question about layering email security tools. And I think that came with one of the I have a customer. They're actually, I believe they're a proof point shop, and they're going to be stacking on top of that, new AI, AI enhanced, I guess you could will, email security tool.
Hmm.
So they're layering kind of traditional with more novel, more innovative. Is that approach, I guess, is that a good approach? Do you see others doing that? Is that something that, how does defense in depth as we look at it, is there defense in depth just for email as a model, just because of how, I guess how
Yes.
much we're seeing, how much change we're seeing?
Well, you mentioned at the beginning of that question compliance and cybersecurity insurance. And
Hmm.
some of the things that both of those look for are security. One, completeness of security. Number two,
Okay.
in some areas, defense in depth. That's going to help a lot. It's highly recommended. It costs more at times, not just in actual hard cost, but also overhead and maintenance. So customers that of ours that still use the seg from like proof pointer mimecast, they do it for one of two reasons. One, because they have some mandate where they need to do compliant, defense in depth. In that case, what they do is they're not going to max out every setting in the upstream seg, but they're going to use it to do just the first line to catch the most obvious stuff and spam and maybe just something for some logging, for instance. Um, and then they will rely on iron scales to do the more complete controls. So what you don't want to do is have a bunch of clocks you have to continuously wind, right? So,
Mhm.
but so that's a good recommendation for sure. And there's hundreds of different compliance frameworks, and many of them do give you bonus points for defense in depth.
Okay, fantastic. Well, I know I don't have anything else, and we haven't had any new questions come in. But Audian, I appreciate you taking the
You
time to
bet.
speak with us today. Hopefully, we can do another one of these. We do have some upcoming panel events for AI and cybersecurity coming up. Hopefully, we can get you included in those as well. I know we kind of went down to the wire planning our first one, so I didn't
Oh
give you
yeah.
much heads up on that one. But
No, this
as
is
we
fun, and you're a great host, by the way. So happy to join the future one.
Absolutely. Well, we'll keep you posted. I know our audience is going to enjoy this. We have quite a few customers I know that are trying to figure out what the next steps are as it relates to email security. So I really appreciate this. And
You bet.
again, thanks for being on and thanks for giving us your insights.
You bet. Thanks, Saeed.
Thank you.
All right, bye.
Everyone, we appreciate you joining us today for our webinar with Iron Scales discussing AI as it's impacting email security. We'll have this recording available shortly for everybody. So for the attendees, feel free to check back with us. We'll have notices provided to you. We'll also post to our LinkedIn, our social media, our YouTube. But for everybody that was not able to attend and they're hearing us now, we appreciate you also checking in and participating with us through our continuing series to just make sure we're showing how AI is impacting all of us across IT and what we can do to use it for our benefit, but also what to be aware of. Again, thank you. This is Saeed with DOF Creations, and we appreciate it.